Lucky American Coins. A 1991 United States 1-cent coin, commonly called the 1991 Lincoln Memorial Penny, can be an interesting coin to examine, especially when the coin appears to have an unusual error, a striking mistake, an off-center design, a doubled feature, a broad strike, a clipped planchette, a die break, or another genuine mint-made variety. However, there is one very important fact to make clear before discussing the possibility of a spectacular price. There is no credible evidence that a normal 1991 Lincoln cent, or a known 1991 Lincoln cent error, has a confirmed current market value of $248 million. That figure should not be presented as an established auction price or verified market valuation. A claim of $248 million is far beyond the documented values associated with 1991 Lincoln cents. The real value of a 1991 penny depends on its mint mark, exact error or variety, condition, color designation, authentication, certification, provenance, and collector demand. For example, PCGS records a documented auction record of $1,116 for a 1991 Philadelphia cent-graded MS 68 Plus Road, while a 1991 Denver cent-graded MS 69 Road has a documented auction record of $11,400. These are remarkable prices for modern Lincoln cents, but they are nowhere near $248 million. The 1991 Lincoln cent is nevertheless a fascinating coin, because it belongs to one of the most widely collected coin series in American history. The Lincoln cent was introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, and by 1991 the series had already developed a collecting tradition spanning more than 8 decades. The 1991 coin continued the familiar Lincoln Memorial design that Americans had seen on cents since 1959. On the obverse, the coin features a portrait of President Abraham Lincoln facing right, with the inscriptions Liberty and Iron God We Trust, along with the date 1991. Depending on where the coin was struck, a mint mark may appear below the date. A 1991 cent without a mint mark was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, while a small d indicates production at the Denver Mint. The reverse displays the Lincoln Memorial, surrounded by United States of America, e pluribus unum, 1 cent, and the familiar denomination inscription. The obverse design was originally created by Victor David Brenner, while the memorial reverse was designed by Frank Gasparro. One of the first things collectors should understand about the 1991 penny is its physical specification. The standard 1991 Lincoln cent has a diameter of approximately 19 millimeters and a nominal weight of 2.50 grams. It is made from copper-plated zinc, rather than the older bronze composition used for many Lincoln cents struck before 1982. The edge is plain. These specifications are important because weight can sometimes help identify an unusual coin. If someone finds a 1991 cent that weighs significantly more, or less than 2.50 grams, that does not automatically mean it is worth a fortune, but it may justify a closer examination. A genuine wrong planchette error, for example, could have a substantially different weight and composition. At the same time, a damaged coin can also lose weight, and plating problems can sometimes create visual effects that collectors mistakenly interpret as valuable mint errors. Therefore, weight is a clue, not proof. The Philadelphia Mint produced approximately 5,165,940,000 Lincoln cents dated 1991. That is an enormous production number, which means the ordinary 1991 Philadelphia cent is not rare simply because of its date. The Denver Mint produced approximately 4,158,442,076 cents dated 1991. Although the Denver mintage was lower than Philadelphia's, more than 4 billion pieces were still produced, making the ordinary 1991 D cent common in circulated grades. PCGS notes that the 1991 D Lincoln cent has no significant premium in circulated condition, and that the upper end of its market is primarily driven by exceptionally high-grade red examples. This is where the word error becomes extremely important. When people hear that a 1991 penny is worth hundreds of millions of dollars, they may assume that every unusual-looking coin from that year is a rare error. That is not how the professional coin market works. A coin can look strange without being a valuable error. The coin may have been damaged after leaving the mint, exposed to chemicals, scratched, squeezed, heated, plated, corroded, or altered by someone trying to make it appear rare. A genuine mint error is something that occurred during the manufacturing process at the United States Mint. The distinction between a genuine mint error and post-mint damage is one of the most important lessons in coin collecting. A collector examining a 1991 cent should begin by looking at the date. The digits should be inspected under magnification, but unusual shapes alone do not prove doubling. The next step is to examine the mint mark area, if applicable. A 1991 Philadelphia cent has no mint mark, whereas a 1991 D has a D. There are also 1991 cents from the San Francisco Mint that were produced for proof sets, and these have an S mint mark. Proof coins are specially struck for collectors, and are generally found with mirrored fields and sharply defined design elements. A proof coin should not automatically be considered an error, but a major proof striking error can be highly collectible. The most exciting possibility for a 1991 cent collector is a genuine double die. A double die is created during the die-making process, before coins are struck. It is different from mechanical doubling, which can occur during the actual striking process, and generally has a different appearance and collecting value. Genuine double dies may show clear separation, or doubling on letters, numbers, or design elements. On a 1991 Lincoln cent, collectors might carefully inspect the date, Liberty, In God We Trust, and other prominent areas. However, the existence of a small secondary image does not automatically make the coin a major double die. Many apparent examples are simply machine doubling, die deterioration, or optical effects caused by lighting and magnification. A major off-center strike is another type of error that could dramatically increase the value of a 1991 cent. During normal production, a blank planchette must be properly positioned between the dies. If the planchette shifts before the strike, part of the design can be missing and a blank crescent-shaped area may appear along one side. The value of an off-center cent depends on how far off-center it is, whether the date remains visible, whether the mint mark is visible, and how dramatic and authentic the error is. A coin that is only slightly off-center may have a modest premium, while a dramatic off-center strike with a complete date can be considerably more desirable. Collectors should be especially interested in errors where the date remains fully visible. The date is critical for attribution. Imagine finding a 1991 cent that is struck 40% off-center, with the entire 1991 date visible on the remaining portion of the planchette. Such a coin could attract significant attention. If the mint mark is also visible, the coin becomes even easier to identify. But again, this does not mean the coin would automatically be worth $248 million. Professional valuation requires examination, authentication, and comparison with actual market transactions. Another possible error is a broad strike. A broad strike occurs when a coin is struck outside the retaining collar. Instead of maintaining the normal round shape and standard diameter, the metal can spread outward during striking. A broad-struck 1991 cent may appear wider or flatter than a normal coin, with portions of the design extending toward the edge. The strength of the error and the overall appearance determine collector interest. A dramatic broad strike can be desirable, particularly when the coin retains clear design details. A related error is a partial collar strike. Sometimes called a railroad rim in certain forms, this occurs when the collar does not properly surround the planchette during striking. The result may be a coin with an unusual raised edge or distorted rim. Collectors often find these errors visually interesting, but the exact classification matters. Not every unusual rim is a valuable mint error. Rim damage can happen after circulation, especially when coins are subjected to pressure or impact. A clipped planchette is another fascinating possibility. A planchette is the blank piece of metal from which a coin is struck. If the metal strip is improperly punched, the resulting blank may have a curved section missing from its edge. This is called a curved clip. Other types of clips include straight clips and incomplete clips. A genuine clipped planchette 1991 cent may show specific characteristics that help distinguish it from post-mint damage. One of these characteristics can be the presence of a weakness or distortion in the rim opposite the clipped area, depending on the type of clip. Professional error specialists can examine these characteristics to determine whether the coin was genuinely clipped before striking. Writing a variant equals document, ID equals 58321, the story of the 1991 Lincoln cent becomes even more interesting when the focus shifts from the ordinary coin to the possibility of a genuine mint-made error. For collectors, the word error has a very specific meaning. It does not simply mean that a coin looks strange, damaged, discolored, scratched, or unusual. A true error must generally be connected to a mistake or malfunction that occurred during the manufacturing process at the United States Mint. This distinction is critical because thousands of coins can become damaged after entering circulation, but only a small number experience significant errors during production and escape into the public. A 1991 Lincoln cent can therefore become fascinating when its physical characteristics do not match what would normally be expected from a properly manufactured example. The challenge is determining whether the unusual feature was created before the coin left the mint, or whether it happened years later. This is where the science of error attribution becomes important. Imagine finding a 1991 penny with a large portion of the design missing from one side. At first glance, a collector might think it is an off-center strike. But closer inspection is necessary. If the coin was genuinely struck off-center, the design should be displaced relative to the edge of the planchette, and the shape of the blank should remain consistent with the way the metal moved during the strike. If the coin was damaged after production, the missing area may show scratches, deformation, or other evidence of impact. These differences can be subtle, but they are extremely important. A genuine off-center strike occurs when the planchette is not correctly positioned between the dies. The striking press comes down, but instead of striking the blank perfectly in the center, the dies strike it at an angle. The result can be dramatic. Part of Lincoln's portrait may be missing. The date may be pushed toward the edge. The rim may appear incomplete on one side while a large blank area remains on the opposite side. The degree of off-center striking is often described as a percentage. A coin that is only a few percent off-center may have a modest premium. A coin that is 20, 30, 40, or even 50% off-center can be much more dramatic. However, the exact value depends on the overall appearance and whether important identifying details remain visible. For a 1991 Lincoln cent, retaining the complete date is especially desirable. A dramatic error that still clearly shows 1991 is easier to identify and usually more attractive to collectors. If the mint mark is also visible, that can add further interest. The 1991 D cent could be especially interesting if found with a major off-center strike, because the D mint mark identifies Denver production. However, the mere presence of a D does not make an off-center coin automatically rare. The error itself must be evaluated. A 1991 Philadelphia cent without a mint mark can also be valuable if it has a genuine major error. The absence of a mint mark is normal for Philadelphia cents of this era, so collectors should not confuse the lack of a mint mark with a missing mint mark error. The key is understanding what was normal for the year. This is a recurring theme in coin collecting. A feature can only be called an error if it is different from the normal production characteristics of the coin. If something was intentionally or routinely produced that way, it is not an error simply because it looks unusual to someone unfamiliar with the series. The same principle applies to the copper-colored appearance of the 1991 cent. The coin's copper-plated zinc composition means that the outer layer is copper while the interior is zinc. If the copper plating becomes damaged, the underlying zinc may become visible. A silver-colored or gray area on a 1991 cent might therefore attract attention, but it does not automatically prove a valuable error. The coin could have been scratched, chemically altered, or exposed to environmental conditions. A genuine plating error, however, can be collectible. During production, the copper plating process must be carefully controlled. If the plating is incomplete or defective, portions of the zinc core may remain exposed. Such coins can show unusual coloration or texture. The difficulty is distinguishing a manufacturing problem from damage caused after the coin entered circulation. One way professionals evaluate such pieces is by studying the exposed area and the surrounding surface. A genuine plating problem often has characteristics consistent with a production defect. Post-mint damage may show evidence of abrasion or chemical alteration. A 1991 cent with a major plating problem may be interesting, but it is important to maintain realistic expectations. Not every plating issue is rare, and not every plating problem is highly valuable. Some are relatively common, and may bring only a small premium. The same caution applies to environmental damage. A coin exposed to moisture, heat, chemicals, or other substances may change color. Some 1991 cents can turn dark brown, black, gray, or even unusual shades of green due to environmental exposure. These colors may look dramatic in photographs, but unusual color does not necessarily equal rarity. Collectors should therefore learn to distinguish original color from altered color. Professional grading services often designate Lincoln cents as brown, or red. A bright, original red example can be highly desirable, particularly in high grades. A coin that has been artificially brightened or chemically treated may not receive the same designation or market value. This is why cleaning is one of the biggest mistakes a new collector can make. Someone may find a 1991 penny that appears dirty and decide to polish it. The coin may become brighter, but the surface can be permanently damaged. Fine hairline scratches may appear across Lincoln's portrait and the memorial. Collectors can often recognize these marks immediately. A cleaned coin may therefore be worth less than an uncleaned coin, even if it looks visually brighter to an inexperienced observer. For anyone searching for valuable 1991 Lincoln cents, original surfaces are extremely important. The concept of mint state is also important. A mint state coin is one that has not circulated. It can still have marks from contact with other coins or from handling at the mint, but it does not show the wear associated with circulation. Modern Lincoln cents can be difficult to preserve because their copper-plated surfaces are vulnerable to spotting and discoloration. The highest grades are therefore rare. A coin can look perfect to the naked eye but receive a lower grade when examined under magnification. A tiny contact mark on Lincoln's cheek, a small spot near the memorial, or a subtle flaw in the fields can make the difference between a high grade and an elite grade. This is one reason why the market value of 1991 Lincoln cents can vary so dramatically. A circulated 1991 penny may be worth only 1 cent. A nice uncirculated example may have a small premium. A high-grade certified coin can be worth substantially more. A top population coin can attract serious competition from registry set collectors. Registry set collecting has become an important part of the modern coin market. Collectors compete to assemble sets containing the highest graded examples of a particular series. A 1991 Lincoln cent that is common in circulation may become scarce at the highest grade. If only a few coins have achieved a particular grade, collectors seeking the best possible set may compete aggressively for them. This can create surprising auction prices. The coin itself has not changed in face value. It is still 1 cent. What has changed is the rarity of the particular condition in which the coin exists. This is a fundamental principle of numismatics. 1 billion coins can be produced, but if only a handful survive in extraordinary condition, those few can become valuable. This is especially relevant to modern coins, because many people assume that they are too recent to be collectible. Yet modern coin collecting has become increasingly sophisticated. Collectors use advanced grading, population reports, auction databases, and digital photography to identify the finest known examples. The 1991 Lincoln cent is therefore an excellent example of the difference between mintage rarity and condition rarity. Mintage rarity refers to how many coins were originally produced. Condition rarity refers to how difficult it is to find surviving examples at a particular grade. Here is part 3, continuing the documentary-style script and bringing the story to a strong ending while keeping the $248 million claim clearly identified as unverified rather than presenting it as a confirmed market value. Writing a variant equals document ID equals 74162. The search for a valuable 1991 Lincoln cent ultimately leads to one of the most important lessons in coin collecting. Rarity must be demonstrated, not simply claimed. A coin can be old, shiny, unusual, or even visually spectacular, but none of those characteristics alone proves that it is worth a fortune. The real value of a 1991 Lincoln cent comes from the combination of its condition, rarity, mint origin, era status, authenticity, certification, and collector demand. For anyone holding a 1991 penny and wondering whether it could be worth a life-changing amount of money, the first step is to forget the sensational price tag for a moment and focus on the coin itself. The date is 1991. The denomination is 1 cent. The design is the Lincoln Memorial reverse and the Victor David Brenner portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse. The normal composition is copper-plated zinc, the standard weight is approximately 2.50 grams, and the diameter is approximately 19 millimeters. These basic facts establish what a normal coin should look like. Everything unusual must then be compared against that standard. The absence of a mint mark on a 1991 Lincoln cent is normally associated with Philadelphia production. AD indicates Denver. An S indicates a proof coin from San Francisco. Understanding this simple distinction can prevent many mistakes. Some online claims suggest that a 1991 penny without a mint mark is automatically rare, but that is incorrect. For this year, a Philadelphia cent normally has no mint mark. The same is true of the copper-colored surface. A 1991 penny is supposed to have a copper-colored exterior because it is copper-plated over a zinc core. The fact that it looks copper does not mean it is an old solid copper cent. A collector must understand the composition of the period before attempting to identify an unusual coin. This knowledge becomes particularly important when examining a suspected wrong planchette error. Suppose a 1991 Lincoln cent weighs significantly more than 2.50 grams. The immediate temptation might be to call it a rare silver penny. But the correct approach is to investigate. What is the diameter? What is the thickness? What is the edge appearance? What is the actual metal composition? Does the planchette correspond to another denomination? Does the strike show characteristics consistent with a mint error? Only after answering these questions can the coin be properly identified. This process may seem slow, but it is exactly what separates professional numismatics from internet speculation. A valuable error coin is not valuable simply because someone says it is valuable. It becomes valuable because the error can be explained, authenticated, and recognized by the market. That is why the most important tool in coin collecting is not a magnifying glass or a digital scale. It is knowledge. A magnifying glass helps you see. A scale helps you measure. A camera helps you document. But knowledge helps you understand. The 1991 Lincoln cent offers countless opportunities to develop that knowledge. One of the most important areas is the study of minting technology. A coin begins its life long before it receives the date 1991. Metal is prepared and formed into sheets. Blanks are punched from those sheets. The blanks are processed into planchets. The planchets are fed into presses. Dies strike the planchets with tremendous force. Collars help control the shape and dimensions of the finished coin. Every stage creates opportunities for something to go wrong. A problem during blanking can create a clipped planchet. A problem involving the die can create a die crack or cud. A problem with positioning can create an off-center strike. A problem involving the collar can create a broad strike or partial collar. A foreign object can create a struck-through error. A planchet mix-up can create a wrong planchet error. A second strike can create a double-struck coin. These errors are fascinating because they preserve evidence of the manufacturing process. The coin becomes a record of what went wrong. That is why major mint errors are so desirable. Collectors are not simply buying a damaged object. They are buying evidence of a rare manufacturing event. This distinction is crucial. A coin damaged by a car tire may look dramatic, but it does not tell us anything unusual about the mint. It simply tells us that the coin was damaged after production. A genuine mint error tells us something about the production process. That is why collectors value them differently. A 1991 Lincoln cent, with a genuine major error, could therefore be a fascinating piece of modern American numismatic history. But the error must be real. Consider the possibility of a clipped planchet. A genuine clipped planchet error occurs before the coin is struck. The blank is punched incorrectly from the metal strip, leaving a portion of the edge missing. The shape can be curved, straight, or irregular depending on the circumstances. One of the most interesting clues is the way the metal behaves opposite the clip. This phenomenon is often discussed as the Blakesley effect. The area opposite the clip can show a weakness in the rim, because the missing portion of the planchet affects the flow of metal during striking. This type of evidence can help specialists distinguish a genuine clip from damage. A damaged coin may have a rough, sharp, or unnatural edge. A genuine clip often has characteristics consistent with the metal being punched out before striking. This is why experts study the entire coin rather than one isolated feature. The same principle applies to broad strikes. A broad-struck 1991 cent may appear unusually wide because the retaining collar failed to contain the planchet during striking. The coin may have a larger diameter and a flatter appearance. But collectors should not confuse a broad strike with a coin that has been physically flattened. A coin flattened after leaving the mint will usually show evidence of pressure or deformation. The metal flow will not match the characteristics of a genuine striking error. Again, the key is evidence. A major off-center strike presents another fascinating possibility. Imagine a 1991 Lincoln cent where nearly half of the coin's surface is blank because the planchet was dramatically misaligned when struck. Lincoln's portrait might be partially missing. The date might remain visible near the edge. The reverse might show only part of the memorial. Such a coin could be highly collectible. The exact value would depend on the degree of off-center striking, the visibility of the date, the mint mark, the condition, and the overall attractiveness of the error. A dramatic error, with a visible date, is usually more desirable than an equally dramatic example where the date is completely missing. This is because the date provides immediate identification. The collector knows exactly what coin they are looking at. The 1991 date also connects the error to a specific production year. If the mint mark is visible, the production location can also be identified. This creates a complete story. The coin is not simply an anonymous error. It is a 1991 Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco product with a specific manufacturing mistake. That story can make the coin more appealing. Another possibility is a die cap. A die cap occurs when a struck coin sticks to one of the dies and continues striking additional planches. As the process continues, the stuck coin can become progressively distorted. Early-stage die caps can retain recognizable designs. Later-stage examples can become dramatically distorted, sometimes resembling bottle caps. A genuine die cap from 1991 would be a fascinating object. However, because these errors are unusual, authentication is especially important. A damaged coin can sometimes imitate the appearance of a die cap. Without expert examination, it can be difficult to determine what actually happened. This is why serious collectors often rely on specialists with experience in mint errors. The same caution applies to die clashes. A die clash occurs when the obverse and reverse dies come together